Hey guys, Gotti Jr. here. Um, so a few weeks ago, we lose an absolute legend in this industry in Pre-Kinwald. And like everyone else, when I heard the news, I was completely shocked and it was unreal and very sad. And it settles in and you start thinking about the memories of Kinwald, as a racer growing up through the late 80s, through the 90s. It was all about Brian. I mean, you'd open up RC Car Action and, you had the Associated and then Losi and Trinity ads. I mean, Brian was everywhere, and he was dominating these races back then. Look at the results. Kinwald was on top. And, yeah, it was just an amazing time. And I think, and I asked Jason this on the show and he backed it up, but I'm not at these tracks today, but I'm sure, Mayfields and the Cavaliers and the Rifkins, they're getting the pro treatment. But I think it was a little bit different back then because that's all we had was RC Car Action. Today, you got the internet and social media. I mean, these guys have their own Facebook Live videos. You can ask them questions directly. You can get answers right away from them. I think you feel more connected and more, than you did back then. So when, so we only had those photos in the magazine. So when we went to a race, it was unreal. So, I was thinking about when I first saw Kinwald and and you guys know, I always find a way to get the 96 Nationals into our episodes. But it's true. I mean, for me, it was the 96 Nationals, the Roar Nationals. I mean, here's a race that it always seemed like it was either out west or way down south somewhere. Never on the East Coast, let alone, in Pennsylvania. I mean, a few hours down the road from me. Are you kidding me? I mean, I was going to that race no matter what. And so when back then when you get to the race, here's these guys, these pros from the West Coast in real life in front of you. That's an amazing experience. And, for me, I become starstruck. I mark out easily, but, I'll admit that. But again, we only had photos and now they're in front of you. And there's Pre-Kinwald and he had that double X4 prototype. And we're going to do an episode next week dedicating to Brian. And, of course, we're going to get Jason on the show. He's just been really busy with his racing and, the race schedule. And they have Silver States coming up this weekend. So the whole JC crew's there. So best of luck to those guys. And then we also want to get Kirby back on. So we want to get the band back together for that episode for sure. And hopefully we're going to be doing that next week for you. But I just wanted to jump on here and let you guys know that. And plus, and plus we reached out to you guys. I mean, we went on Facebook and we said, hey, look, if you have any cool stories of Kinwald, give us a call and leave a message on our voicemail and I can insert that into that episode. I think that'd be really cool to have that on there. And yeah, so I mean, you can call our voicemail. It's 570-554-0877. And give us a cool story you may have, or it's a 3-minute time limit, but I'm sure that's more than enough time. But you call us up with a story or give your condolences. I think it'd be really nice to insert that into the show. But anyway, yeah. So there's Brian, with that double X4 prototype. So much buzz about that car back then, and Brian when he would go to practice with that car, I mean. You would see the sea of people around them, his entourage or whatever around him. I mean, you couldn't see Brian because he was small, but I mean, you knew where he was at all times because you would see these people just, go to the driver's stand. And then there's Brian going up to the driver's stand and practicing with the car to see that run around. And everybody, you couldn't find a spot around the track to watch him. And everybody's taking photos and videos and then he'd come off the driver's stand, then the people would surround him again, and they'd go right back to the pits. And, they were trying to catch a glimpse of that car, but, Losi Jr. and Pops, they had that all, as soon as he pulled it off, that was covered. And you go back to the pits, and he'd be there wrenching, and people would be watching him. And, and people would be asking him questions about the setups and stuff. And, I saw him work on a kid's car, adjusting the camber, and then he even at one point tore somebody's shocks apart for him and helped him out with that. I mean, that's just how Brian was. I mean, he seemed shy and stuff, but if you approached him with a question, Brian was going to answer it and he was going to help you the best he can. And so yeah, I mean, so that was a cool moment. And and Brian gave me an autograph, and I got to spoke to him briefly, and then I just backed up and watched, just watch him wrench like everyone else was doing. But I got there and I was just like, wow, man, this is awesome. I didn't care about racing. I just wanted to see the pros. And and then Kirby, who I knew of course, but I didn't know him personally back then. But here's Kirby, a pro himself in the oval scene. He's at this race, running around getting autographs on the RC Legend cards. So and we'll have Kirby on the show. He could tell his stories, but he's there getting the autographs too. I mean, it was just that special of a moment for have these guys on the East Coast. And so yeah, seeing Kinwald run and getting a chance to see him race, and just that whole weekend there was just awesome. And I'm so glad I went to it and had a chance to meet him there. So, and I have a couple other stories. Well, I guess I'll tell mine and let the other guys tell theirs then and give them time. But so, and then after that, I can't remember when it was, but it was not that long after that. Within that year, 96, 97, I was with my good friend Brian Roeder. And Brian still, some of you listeners may know Roeder. He's out there racing to this day, and he's really good. I mean, we raced locally together, when I was growing up, and then he just surpassed me when he started branching out to these other races and just really got knowledgeable on RC and just became an excellent racer. And right now he's still out there. He's my age or a little bit older than me, and he's out there racing for J Concepts and stuff, and Serpent. But yeah, so we're at a race, and Kinwald was at this race also, and we're back at the hotel, and the hotels how they are. Everybody has their doors open. You can hear the motors and the Dremels running, and everybody's out in the hallways and stuff. And anyway, so Roeder's talking to somebody that's part of Kinwald's crew, and Roeder needed something, and the dude's like, "Hey, when you come back to our room, we got it. No worries." So I was like, wow, me, I don't think Roeder cared, but I think Roeder was just like, whatever, yeah, sure. And I was like, wait a minute, we're going to Kinwald's room. You know what I mean? This is crazy. So we go in, and it's like, RC racer's dream. I mean, you had parts everywhere, cars everywhere, tires, batteries, turbo 30s all over the place, and then you have Kinwald. He's on the bed there, and he's tearing apart a car, and he had parts all over his bed, car parts everywhere. And he's working on stuff, and someone else is working on stuff, and he's just talking to us like we're part of his crew, and that was awesome. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So within, a year of each other, 96, 97, I got to see Brian twice, and then little did I know that I'd be working at Trinity a year after that, and that was a real special time to be there working at Trinity when Kinwald was dominating, and you took a lot of pride in that. Like, Kinwald would be, he'd win a race somewhere on a weekend, and how the how the saying is, like, you win on Sunday, it sells on Monday. Well, that was absolutely true. Like, we were able to get on those phones Monday morning and say, well, hey, Kinwald, use this part or whatever this weekend, and dominated. And then the hobby shop would be like, yeah, well, I'll order, give me those, give me a dozen of those, give me a dozen of that. It's like, you couldn't keep that. The Team Kinwald line, you could not keep in stock. I mean, it just flew out the doors. And a funny thing is, I remember when, in RC, I don't know, in RC, apparel doesn't seem to really move that great. And so back then we had the Trinity shirts and stuff, and we'd sell them, a good amount of them. And then we had the Kinwald shirts, and there was a shirt in particular that had his photo on it, and I have it, and I'll take a photo of it and put it on our Facebook page with that episode we're going to do next week for Kinwald. But I remember the shirt, his photo was on the front, had his face on the front, and on the back it had him with a broom, and he had these cars swept up, and he TQ'd. And he TQ'd 3 times, won all 3 classes, and it said clean sweep or whatever. And I remember Brian talking to him on the phone. He didn't really, how it is, I guess, when you have your face on a shirt or something. He was just like, come on, guys, really? But that shirt, our first initial shipment went right out the door. I mean, the hobby shops just ordered them and they sold them. I mean, it was just, that's what Kinwald did. That's the effect that Kinwald had. And, absolute rock star. And it was really cool to be a part of that at Trinity. And then I told this story once before on the podcast, but we were in Cleveland Indoor Championships race, and Trinity, we had a booth there and we're selling stuff, and Kinwald was there. So and at Cleveland, and I'm sure some of you guys listening have been at Cleveland. You'd sit up in your hotel room, you could tell on the TV when your race was up next. So you'd walk down, race, and then go back up. So there was you didn't have a big window there to approach Kinwald with something or whatever. So we're selling, I had these Trinity hats there. They're brand new Trinity hats. And it goes back to my story about apparel. Apparel moves, but not probably as great as you want it to move. So I would have people come up to me and say, hey, because they had again, the window to see these guys was very small, and you didn't really want to bother them much when they're on their way to the track. So I had these guys, they say, hey, can you get Kinwald to autograph this for me? And then I'll pick it up later or whatever. So I had a few hats, I got them autographed, and then people bought them right away. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I remember Kinwald coming through, and he looked over and he said, just give me those bag of hats. And I give him a bag of hats. I don't know how many was in there, but there was quite a few in there. And he takes it up to the room with him. And he autographs the lids. And he brings them back down to me. Like, he didn't have a race coming up. He took the time to actually just come back down and bring them down to me when he was done with them. And we put those hats out, and they sold right out like that completely. And the unsigned hats I still had a few of those left over, but the Kinwald hats that were autographed, sold them. And again, the whole Kinwald effect. I mean, that's what he was. And just, it's a big loss to the industry. I mean, he was very active, even now, and working with Jason, and he had that dirt product line. And, and he was we posted photos on here on our Facebook page of some of the parts that he made and some of the cool things that he made and anodizing he did. And the guy was just amazing for, just he would think of something to make it. It was really cool what he did. And, yeah, I mean, and I'm sure these guys today would still talk to him and pick his brain about certain things, and he'd give them advice or whatever. And, I think, it's just it's just very sad, and he's going to be missed greatly. And so, yeah, we definitely want to dedicate the next episode to him. And again, we want to get you guys involved. So please, like I said, call that voicemail line, leave a message. Again, it's 570-554-0877. And yeah, give us a cool story or just send your condolences. That would be really cool. But yeah, there's briefly my story. That I, when I crossed paths with Kinwald, and it was really awesome. Yeah. So rest in peace, Brian. And, he's going to be greatly missed but never forgotten. That's for sure. So, all right, guys, we will catch you on the next show. And, like I said, we will be doing that with Jason and Kirby, and hopefully get you guys involved also. So, all right, guys. We are out. We will see you later.